Miller Mondays.
My friends, Simon Miller here. Hopefully you can hear from my voice why Miller Monday has been delayed to Wednesday, maybe even Thursday. It's because I've had no voice, essentially, and it will probably go during this as well. I do want to shout out the overlap. Thank you for having me on Monday. That was super duper cool. Well, we did get to talk about the Arsenal-Liverpool game, and hopefully I can take my comments on there, although please do go watch that on YouTube to sort of get my overlying ideas. I kind of get where everybody is coming from. I think that's the big thing. You can't take things too much game by game, although at the same time you do have to. But I do understand why in the second half, people kind of felt like we should have been more creative. I think that's fair, right? I really, really do. I have two thoughts on this. This is what I kind of led into on the overlap as well. I think Liverpool were there for the taking, or at least to give them a go, because you saw what Bournemouth had done, you'd see what Crystal Palace had done. They do look shaky at the back, which is why they went after Mark Gay on transfer deadline day, which is very, very odd. Don't know why they didn't sort of go after him sooner than that, but they got Isak, so let's not pretend. And also, their back line is still pretty good. Just at the moment, it's not as good as the rest of their team, but I certainly don't want to count them out, because again, I think they've had a terrific transfer window and they are a threat. But, you know, it's one of those weird situations where it makes no sense to say this because we didn't walk away with a point. But had we walked away with a point, I think it would have been a decent result. We're not great at Anfield. I screwed this up on the overlap. Still don't know what I said, but I was very, very tired as I am now. But, you know, essentially, I think 8 losses and 5 draws in the last 12, 13 games or something like that. You know, we struggled to win there. And, you know, getting a point on Liverpool, I just think is good. I think they are the best team in the league. I think the league last year has proven that. So if you can walk away and take the point, I think it's good. But we didn't, and that's the issue. I think you have to address that head on and hold your hands up. We weren't able to get the extra point. So I do look at it a bit differently, and I guess there's that sort of, what's the word, regret in your stomach. We're like, oh, if only we had pushed them, maybe we would have been able to get a goal and walked away with 3 points. You just don't know. But also, it's the third game of the season. It's not going to make a difference. A lot of the players we did bring in weren't too, our record against the top six isn't that bad in the last 2 seasons, apart from Anfield, where I don't think we're particularly good. But it's the lower teams, which I don't mean disparagingly. I'm just talking about literally in the league. You know, it's those games, I talked about this last week, where you are 2 up, then you're 2-2, or we struggle to break down a low block, or we run out of ideas, we're not creative enough. That's where I think a lot of these extra players will come in handy. And I think I saw that against Leeds when I went to the Emirates. They were certainly doing a low block for 20 to 25 minutes, but when we figured them out, we had the manpower, the talent, the effort, and all of those words to break them down, and we won 5-0. So, look, losing 1-0 to the champions, no shame in it as far as I'm concerned. We see what happens with Forest and Newcastle and everybody else after the international break. But I do think we can be more creative. And I understand Arteta relying on his defence because it is the best defence in the league, which, again, is a smart thing to do. But I don't think Liverpool were the unit they're probably going to be in a few weeks' time. But they're going to slip up and will slip up again. My hope, though, is that with the players we have brought in, we slip in less. And it was a pretty uneventful game. In the first half, I thought, fantastic. You know, we went there, we proved we weren't going to be bullied, we proved that we had the height and the strength and that we weren't pushovers, which is hugely important because it was Stamford Bridge for a while where we always seemed intimidated. I think we've got over that. I think we feel stronger at Anfield, but I still think there's a little bit of that, which I do get because you need those 3 points. It's like a winning mentality. It's like a championship winning mentality. You win one trophy and all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, we may be able to do this. And you push on from there. But it's a shame. Like it really, really is. But still, 2 wins, 1 loss. I think we can beat Forest. I think we can beat City. I think we can beat Newcastle. Then all of a sudden you're talking, where are we at then? 3, 6, 9, 12, like 15 points. The issue is who beats Liverpool. And they have got Isak now. So even if they start winning all games 4-3, a win is a win. So even if they are a little bit shaky at the back, you know, they're going to have so much firepower with TK as well. And Gakpo. It's mad. It's mad. But listen, that's what you have to compete with these days. And it's why I don't want to, I do think it's massively unfair. I don't want to say that. It's too much. It's unlucky. But everybody's unlucky. But when Saliba went down at the start of the game, it was a bit like, well, this is crazy. I don't think Gyökeres was 100% fit, which is why he doesn't start, so I'm not going to get on Arteta's case over that. Saka obviously injured, and then... But the thing with Saliba going down is I thought Mosquera coming in did a pretty decent job. And that's the idea, right? So 2 seasons ago, or 3, whenever it was, we lost Saliba, and it did feel like we lost all our momentum. We didn't know what to do. We didn't have anyone to bring in. Now we have that, and we just brought in Cape as well, who I think there is designed to sort of help the left side and help out Gabriel if the same thing should happen. And it's why Saka going down. I mean, Madueke to me is always going to be a solid 7 out of 10, although I don't want to jump on him too much. But he's always going to do exactly what you think he's going to do, but you need players like that as well. I would say the biggest criticism, constructively, I had for Arsenal about the weekend is there wasn't enough service to Gyökeres, but maybe we set up that way as well. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't it felt like a defensive performance, and Gyökeres is not that type of player. Arguably, Havertz would have been better for that game, but he's injured too. This is what I mean about the injuries, but I understand that all clubs are going to get injuries. So I don't want to be that guy. I hear it all the time, and I roll my eyes, so I don't want to fall into that platform. But he is going to need service. I think it's ridiculous that after 3 games, we're already criticising him. Technically, he's got 2 goals in 3 games, which is pretty damn good. And if he continues to do that, I'll be over the moon. But yeah, he needs service. He's one of those players. I don't want him dropping back. I don't think he's necessarily an overly skilled football player or anything like that. He's a goal scorer. And what was his contributions in Europe like, or for Sporting Lisbon? 98 goals in 102 appearances. I think I'm exaggerating a bit. But he did have the best goal scoring record in Europe. So you can't bring him in and go, oh, it's a mistake. And Sesko's not pulling up trees at Manchester United. So if that's the either or, I certainly don't feel disappointed. But you are going to need an Odegaard pinging in balls in there and a Saka doing his thing. And if Madueke's going to play there, maybe not starting Eze was a mistake. But again, I don't know his mindset. I don't know where Arteta thought he was. That's the other thing with Gyökeres as I jump around the place. He can't be match fit because he like everybody else's transfer window, he did a wobbly. He said to Sporting Lisbon, I'm not going to play. So he may still be getting match fit, or at least used to the way that Arsenal play. I think Eze, given that it was the 3rd game of the season and it was Liverpool and football likes a good headline, I think I probably would have started Eze or brought him on a lot sooner. He's going to have that bee in his bonnet and his chip on the shoulder because, he wants to prove that even deep down to himself, I'm sure, you shouldn't let me go when I was a kid or a trainee. Now I've gone to QPR, I've gone to Crystal Palace. Don't forget, he was in that Palace team that battered Liverpool for certain moments of that game. So he probably should have done that. But listen, Arteta went in there with a game plan that didn't work. And it's all about fine margins. But yeah, we would have been way over the moon. And I would have bragged about it a little bit on the overlap and been like, this is the problem, right? Because again, it goes back to that fine margins things about how what you can and can't argue. I absolutely would have gone, yeah, but we went there for a point. We got the point. Now we're unbeaten and now we're on, 7 points, etc., etc. And Liverpool probably would have been on the same, but you're neck for neck with them. And then, of course, you get the crazies going, oh, Arteta's got to go, rah. I think it's mad. So you're telling me that if we get to the final of the Champions League, let's say it's Liverpool, right? Football loves to do that as well. And we lose 1-0 when flipping Isak scores in the 89th minute, which could happen. And then it's, we go all 38 games, it's 1 point final day of the season. And again, Isak scores the last goal. Don't want to give so much love to Isak here. But again, somehow football works itself out that way. I don't want Arteta to go. I want him to go again is what I want, because now we're 1 point away from winning the league. We're 1 goal away from winning the Champions League. Let's not forget what we were 5 years ago. And as me and the Gunners R Us guys always talked about, it's about mentality and it's about personality and it's about how you feel about your club. And I'm still into the project. I'm still into the goal. I'm still into what Arteta is trying to achieve. And of course I want to win trophies. But the more sentimental side of me wants to win a trophy with Arteta because he's the guy that did all of this and it's his team and it's his rebranding and it's his approach. And it's not that easy. Again, I don't think it's gone up yet. It was a tongue-in-cheek argument with a Spurs fan. Ben, I think his name was, who said that he believes Thomas Frank will win a trophy before Arteta does. And I stand by this. I want to win the Carabao Cup and I want to win the FA Cup. But if we won the Carabao Cup, I don't think that would satisfy anybody. So arguably Arteta's position would still be in jeopardy because that's where we are. We won a Premier League. We won a Champions League. But I still think you have to take the domestic cup seriously. I'd love to win both or even just one of them. But yeah, if we go all the way in the Premier League and all the way in the Champions League, I don't see why anybody would want to replace them. People say who? I actually like Glasner from Crystal Palace now, especially when he put his foot down about Mark Gay. He plays creative football and he's got something about him. He's a bit of a disciplinarian, I suppose. But I don't see who else comes in Arteta. We spent all this money. I think we need to get to that point where most fans feel like we've run the course. And I don't feel that way at all. All the players we brought in, like Zubamendi and Gyökeres that we've talked about, and Mascara and Cape, and there'll be someone I'm not even thinking about right now, Eze, of course. These are people that have to bed in. And I've seen so many people defending Liverpool, as they should do. They've got all these new players. Maybe that's why they're not up to speed just yet. Well, Arsenal deserve that same credit and respect too. So we need to see where we are. November. Maybe November's too late because then you're getting towards Christmas, but early October, so a good old month. And of course, we have the international break now, but how is everybody bedding in? Hopefully, Saka will be back in a month. And, people did say that Odegaard wasn't his self last year because he didn't have that point man. Well, now we've got him. So Odegaard and Gyökeres need to learn how to work together as well. But I'm still very excited. I can handle going to Liverpool and losing a competitive 1-0. I'm not happy about it. And of course, I can watch it and still put on my criticism hat and go, man, I think we should have sort of gone at them a bit more. But there was a time when we would have been thumped 4-0. Like Stamford Bridge and Anfield were always like, oh my gosh, what is the drubbing we're going to be? Even last season, when I think Liverpool already won the title, that first half is some of the worst football I've seen Arsenal play under Arteta. And we were 2-0 down, and he slapped it around a bit, and we got back to 2-2, which was a phenomenal result, all things considered. Of course, the flip side, if we fall away and we finish the third and, maybe we don't get out of the quarterfinals, then maybe you do have to kind of look what went wrong. But at the moment, I just don't see why that would happen. Again, Manchester United, we're not great at Old Trafford, but we win scrappy. You're going to have to win those games if you want to win the league. Leeds destroyed them. Also, that's what we should be doing for a just promoted team. And you go to Liverpool, and it's more than just a game against Liverpool. It's the champions, the people that everyone assumes you're going to be contending with. I'm glad that Isak wasn't playing, but that was hanging over the club too. There were so many headlines that you could have dived into. But I certainly haven't lost my faith or, what I think we can do this season. I don't think Liverpool can run away with it. And when I mean that sort of, obviously they can, literally, but figuratively from an Arsenal point of view, I really think we need to be neck and neck with them, because then you start to believe in the signings. And of course, the closer we get to the wins and the trophies, then the Ezes and the like will believe in it more. And aside from Arteta potentially leaving or sort of being kicked out, you don't want a Saka to start thinking to himself, well, maybe I'm going to have to go elsewhere. I think they have bought in, and I think they do want to win trophies with this club, which I would love. But you don't want especially like a Gabriel or a Saliba, who haven't actually sort of grown up in the system and have come from other clubs. Obviously, Saka has been since he was a young boy. Same with Ranieri. But if Real Madrid comes in for any of those guys, you should start to worry. And I would understand if they went. I'd hate it. But it's not like I'm like Trent going there. I'm like, why is he going to Real Madrid? Because it's Real Madrid. Like Rashford going to Barcelona, I understand it. I just don't want our players to do that, because I want to start dominating and I want to start winning titles. And it's going to be super hard against Liverpool. But I'll be intrigued to see how Liverpool treat other teams throughout this season. And I think actually in retrospect and hindsight, we're going to look a lot better. And the game plan worked for 78 minutes, whatever it was. And then it was just an amazing free kick by Liverpool, which could Raya have done better with it? Some people say if there was no wall, he would have done better with it. That to me just sounds like a social media conversation we're trying to have. But yes, I want to see how Arsenal adapt and evolve with all these new... Because the squad is good. And I think most Arsenal fans would admit that sometimes last year we had a few injuries, or even if we had our first 11, you'd look on the bench and go, who the hell are we going to bring on? It doesn't feel very exciting. Well, it doesn't feel like that now. I mean, Saka obviously would have been better against Liverpool, but I like what Madueke did. He needs to be a little bit more creativity, kind of fell into a pattern, but again, it's early days. Martinelli, I love Martinelli. I think most Arsenal fans do if you've been around for a while, but he's going to start having to hit the ground running a little bit harder, because it kind of feels like that bad spell of form for last year is still there. But though he did decent, just more. But again, that's why when Havertz coming back in the team and just creating more options for those front three places. And I don't want Gyökeres to play every game of the season. Like, I really don't. I think in that formation, Havertz likely would have played. But, Gyökeres is... I said on the overlap that I said that I don't have much skill to him. That's not what I meant. I just think his skill is in putting the ball in the back of the net. Don't let him drop behind the halfway line. Get balls into him. He's going to run the channels. He's going to rough people up. Like, if he does 10 things, 5 of them will be crazy, but 5 of them will be aiming to have a shot on target. And that's going to be so helpful when we come up against the Palaces. And who else screwed us over last season? Aston Villa, I think, did it to us. Maybe a Bournemouth. I was at that Bournemouth game 2 seasons ago. When it was Reece Nelson that scored the 89th screamer to win it. And everybody thought we were going to win the league then, but we fell away. And so that's where that idea, that feeling comes from. People think it's going to happen to us again, and they're worried about it, and they have Pavlovian conditioning, I suppose. But nobody will know that more than Arteta. Like, if we get to the end of the season and we've absolutely not progressed, then I think the conversation gets a little bit louder. I can only tell you how I'm going to feel if that does happen. But as I sit here on the 3rd of September, 2025, I don't want Arteta to go anywhere. Like, I really, really don't. I think we're just getting into this project now. It finally feels like we've filled all the pieces of the puzzle, which is probably why people feel like Arsenal should win the league, and there's a conversation if they don't. But once again, the counterpoint is we spent, 250 million, which is a lot of money, and we should be winning trophies for people that maybe listen to that aren't Arsenal fans. But I think Liverpool spent over 400 million. I understand net spend, that's not what I mean. If you inject 40 million pounds worth of players into your squad, I think you should be the favourites for the league, especially when you just won a league. So that's why I don't really understand why there's so much stuff being thrown at Arsenal. But of course I get it too. It's football, it's tribalism. And I would imagine a good few people are a little bit worried, maybe less so after the Liverpool game. But there will be a few people that are like, man, Arsenal look really good on paper. And we have Max Dowman coming through at 15 years of age. There's your next generation. Obviously now Ranieri. I think we would have played Ranieri more than we have done if Odegaard has hurt his shoulder. Again, I saw Odegaard go down at the Emirates and didn't look good. Let's protect people here. What we did do last year was we run players into the ground, which could be a reason why Saka still has hamstring issues. I think it was the other hamstring this time, which is way better than the surgical one. But in all games, be it Liverpool, United, going abroad in the Champions League, can't remember who we got now, but we've got some big teams. Let's say we get into the Carabao Cup and we have to play Portsmouth. Don't even know if they're still in it. You don't want to have to hammer that first team. You want to know that you have this sort of 1.5 team, as Arteta kind of tells the subs bench, where they can come on, they can put on a performance, and you believe that they can win. So we're not just playing the kids or playing the secondary string team because we want the first players to rest. We have people that come in there that are hungry, they want to win the championships, don't care if it's Carabao Cup, FA Cup. Just let me play, boss, so I can show what I can do. So it's disappointing, and it sucks. How great would it have been if we could have sat here right now with a point against Liverpool? The truth is we do not have that, so we need to see how we're going to respond, and that builds character, and that builds dynamism, and that builds a team spirit too, because I think you'd have to imagine that Eze probably hasn't got that yet. Maybe Gyökeres doesn't have that yet. I do think Zubimendi and Rice work super well together. We talked about that last week as well. One will come forward, the other one drops back. Arguably, maybe that's something we need to change. So Zubimendi hangbacks more, which allows, Rice to do more of his thing. I'm not getting back into this set piece argument as well. Set pieces are part of football. Sure, we need to score more goals from open play, but once again, that's why Gyökeres is there. But I'm never going to look a gift horse in the mouth. If you can score from a corner, you can score from a throw-in. We're not great at throw-ins. Nobody's anymore. Or you can score from a free kick. Of course I want to do that because it's an extra goal. And actually, I kind of found that against Leeds, the first goal was from a corner. And then we sort of lent into the game far harder. And there's a lot more open play, a lot more freedom, a lot more creativity, and a lot more risk that we may be able to score from somewhere different. So still super positive. Still think we can win the league. Don't think it's a lock, but never did think it was a lock. My hot take for the season, once again on the overlap that comes out later this week or next week, is that Gyökeres will be the top scorer in the Premier League. Again, it's a hot take, so understand you've got your Salahs, your Wirtzes, who really hasn't come into his own either. I think Isak will probably win it ultimately, but that's a cold take. Everybody assumes that. I just think once Isak has got his match fitness up and he settles into the way that Arne Slot's play, I don't like the way that he left, but again, same with Gyökeres, same with Vista at Newcastle. Mark Gay is the way that I think we should do it. Everyone says that too, as well. Mark Gay should have thrown his toys at the pram because everybody else did this, got a move. Yeah, but no one calls him an idiot either. All the rest got called idiots. I think there was a report in The Guardian or The Athletic that he is very upset by this. I don't think he's being totally infallible to it all, and totally fallible to it all, and nor should he. But I just look at it from a player's point of view. I'd always rather the player just respected things and got on with it. And I'm not pretending that players, it's the same the other way around. Look at the Nicholas Jackson situation when he lands in Germany and then gets a phone call. But I just don't think you want to wreck the legacy at the club that you have. I think that is quite important. And I think when Isak goes back to St James's Park, they're going to boo the crap out of him. And that's probably going to suck. And you don't want that. Whereas somebody like an Eze probably goes back to Palace. Mark Gay especially. Mark Gay should be celebrated as the best person ever when he goes back to Palace. Which is why if he is moaning, I don't think it'd get more public than the kind of mini social media stuff we saw today from reputable sources. But you never know, and you've always got to take it with a pinch of salt. But still believe, still think we're on track, still love the team, still love the new signings, still think Gyökeres has got a way to go before he understands the Premier League, but he's so big in terms of a striker, and he gets himself about and he boots people. I don't think it would be too long. It just sucks we lost 1-0. If we'd lost 1-0, but we were pelting them, I honestly think the dialogue would have been massively different. Especially because essentially it was the United game, right? When they looked way better than us, but they weren't able to score. We didn't really do that. We kind of went Jose Mourinho. And the reason that Jose Mourinho gets away with it, same reason Guardiola gets away with being a bit mad, is because they win trophies. And that's what Arteta needs. I love Arteta's over-the-top mad personality and the things that he says. Some of them are crazy. But you can only really get away with them more if you've got a trophy cabinet, and in terms of Pep's case, be one of the best managers ever to back it up. Amorim is kind of falling in today. There's a lot of press conferences, there's a lot of stuff, and people jump down his throat, but if he was winning Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues, people are like, this is fantastic with the new Jose Mourinho, and he's making us laugh, which people do like. We do like a bit of personality into the game. So that's how I feel. I will be back next week, hopefully properly on time. And in the meantime, you can find me on SideMiller316. But make sure you watch that overlap episode because I've really got into a cool conversation with Paul Scholes and Jamie Carragher about it, which is the dumbest sentence I've ever said in my life. I don't understand either. Shout out to all the people that messaged me going, why are you on the overlap? Because they asked me. And it was an absolute privilege. Enjoy your football, my friends. Enjoy the international break. And I'll talk to you again in a week.